Hello and welcome to episode number 112 of Bad End Podcast. Yes, episode 112. I am Josh Calixto, joined as always by my lovely, gorgeous, beautiful co-host, Kyle Cookstell. Kyle.
Hi.
How are you doing?
It's me, the gorgeous co-host. I am sleepy and excited to talk about some video games.
The lovely, beautiful, articulate co-host, Kyle Cookstell. I just feel like we gotta start like describing white guys as like gorgeous,
the most gorgeous,
articulate, well-spoken. Just start flipping.
Do you remember that thing where that girl was like, she was like walking through New York City by myself, and like she was getting like hassled and stuff through the streets, and then there was sort of like, a lot of good discussion about gender politics in America, but then there was like the parody video that,
oh yeah,
I want to say it was actually like The Verge or something. Like someone did this parody video where it was like walking through New York streets alone as a white guy, and everyone was like giving him high fives and like tossing him like free burritos and stuff.
This was
like a party.
Peak think piece era.
This was peak think piece era. Oh my god,
think piece era. It was videos to make you think. This
Content
actually just
happening.
reminded me. This is, I swear to God, this is totally organic. Kyle and I, usually before the episode, we talk about a little bit about the games we've been playing, so we're not being totally caught off guard. I totally forgot that I played Sifu, and this conversation actually reminded me that I played Sifu. Good Lord. By the way, we got to talk about Sifu at some point.
We could talk about it on this podcast.
Yeah,
we have a video game podcast, Josh. Did you remember that? On the game podcast, we talk about games. So if you got a game that you want a game talk game,
I want
game talk.
I guess I could get the Sifu shit off my chest.
Wait, can I get this is the I guess tell the viewers about.
We can ease
Sifu.
in a little bit. We can also talk about Vampire Survivors. I feel like that's the game. The biggest phenomenon.
I feel like it was the game last week.
It was, but I feel like it's the biggest phenomenon game that we should talk about for at least a little bit. I mean, I don't. What is there to say about this thing? Vampire Survivors.
Sifu?
No, Vampire Survivors.
Nothing. It's another thing where like it's a game that is basically free, and
it's like $3.
It's $3, but you can also have like a normie person who discovers this game on the internet can play like the demo for free and get like a pretty meaningful experience out of it, and not like achievement hunt or try like find the best builds, because they're not losers like we are.
Okay, I actually have a lot to say about Vampire Survivors.
But you got some think pieces in you about Vampire Survivors?
I got some think pieces. First of all, this is...
explain the game a little bit for people who aren't watching us on YouTube.
So, which, by the way, you can watch us on YouTube if you are one of our subscribers and are part of our Patreon, patreon.com/badend. You can see us live. We'll post a link in our Discord. But anyway, Vampire Survivors is... It's like a bullet hell meets tower defense meets idle game.
I think it's like bullet hell idle game. Maybe. The key thing about it is
meets
that
dungeon crawler, almost roguelike.
No, it's like they make it give you're dressing it up too much. It's like
it has elements of all those things. It's like less than the sum of its parts.
It's sort of like it's very true,
but in a good way.
It's sort of like Geometry Wars. Like it's sort of like a flying around like 2D like Geometry Wars style game, but you instead of like but with power-ups, whereas in Geometry Wars, everything else just got harder. In this game, you get stronger. I mean, stuff gets harder too, but largely it's like you're getting stronger. And the control scheme is super simple. You can't like aim. There's no aiming of anything. I mean, there's sort of aiming, but it's basically like the only control.
It's more alignment, aligning yourself.
Yeah.
In certain ways. I will say that it has the roguelike aspect of you're going to be bad at the game. Everyone that I've seen who has picked up this game is like in their first playthrough session ends up saying, oh, I'm not very good. I'm really bad at this game. And it's like, no, you're not. You're not bad at this game. You just haven't spent gold to buy upgrades that last you every run. And you think you're getting better at the game, but you're not. You're just buying the upgrades that make it easier for you to win the game. That's the thing about all these roguelike games with persistent upgrades for me. It's such... have we not found a better way to deal with this? This is not... It's an illusion.
Persistent upgrades?
It's a progress illusion. It's the carrot on a stick that's made to look like it's not. You know? That's the thing. Roguelikes are supposed to be like, oh, I got better at this game. It's a hard game. It's like, no, it's not a hard game. You just need to grind the right things.
I'm like sort of with you. I think like it depends on what the sort of upgrades are, because I think that there's a way where they just sort of tie normal game itemization upgrade stuff. They kind of like front load it, where instead of it being one quote unquote run, you do like the whole time like an RPG and you're kind of always getting better. You kind of like allows you to like kind of do a new build each time on like smaller time cycles. It's actually funny we're talking about this now because Rebecca has recently picked up playing Dead Cells, which I kind of like played like a little bit of it, but I kind of bounced off of it. Because I was just like, yeah, I get it. But it's been fun like watching her really get into it and sort of like seeing a lot of the same stuff, but also seeing like Dead Cells is really great at, I think actually Vampire Survivors has some of this too, where the sort of the nature of the upgrades you get are like not just percentage bonuses. They're actually sort of like manifested in some visual manner, and they can like sort of just change the way that you move around the level, which I think is kind of like the best ways that this stuff can work.
Well, I'm talking
and then it
about
gives you like
the between run upgrades.
The persistent stuff?
Yes, like the stuff that you buy with gold that you get in your runs. That's
it's
the
weird
because
like well, this was the shit that we hated so much about Loop Hero, right? Where it was like,
yes,
like Loop Hero, it was like too obvious. You're like, okay, I'm just gonna suck at this game for a lot until I get really good. It's almost like I want to like get some money up front so I can just like buy the starting.
I will
stuff,
say,
you know?
This is like the good version of Loop Hero, though. This game,
yeah.
It's actually, it doesn't feel like the actual act of playing the game, which involves you essentially just, it's what's one thing that's really cool about this game. It's very accessible. All you use is the D-pad. You do not need to press any other buttons except for like confirm in menus. And you're just dodging dudes. You're just dodging skeletons and bullets and stuff like that. And that's really cool. It's really simple. It doesn't demand that much of your attention. You can kind of have something else going on in the background, and you just kind of follow along with what's happening in the game. And you get that feedback loop of watching your character progress in a 30 or so minute loop. You got this really like tight little arc of what happens and how you die and how your weapons progress and stuff over the course of this one game, single sitting. And what, you take with you whatever happens. It's just like a very tight experience that requires just the right amount of attention, I would say.
It's also worth saying this game looks fucking busted. Like, it is not a pretty game.
It looks like
trash. Like, it just looks.
It looks like a joke. It looks like a joke.
It looks like a joke.
You would see a mobile ad for this game, like Evany or something.
Yeah, it's like you see like the booby fantasy girl, and then you actually go play her game, and it's like
it's this
Farmville.
It's this game.
Yeah,
it's this game.
It's this game. I think like one thing that's sort of like happening with this game, which was I kind of caught wind of this. I have no idea. I have one example of this. I don't know if this is a thing, but I heard somebody on a Discord describe it. They said, like it's an IO game. Like, and I think that we're millennials, so we're not so keyed into the like IO game craze. Do you know about this stuff?
No, what's an IO game?
Oh man. This is
what
like
the hell?
This is like when I didn't know who
It's
Ninja
like
was.
Roblox.
No, so IO games are like I'm trying to think of like really popular ones. There's like balls.io and like worms.io. They're basically like they're games that you go to a web browser and they all have like very simple domains. So they're like battles.io or like, vampires.io or something. And they're what they are is that you just kind of go into it and it's a browser-based online multiplayer game. So but there's very little sort of friction between just starting the game. And the sort of like appeal of these is that you can just go to a web browser and go play a game for free with like 100 other people or something, and they're all like they kind of I think they kind of picked up like a little bit before battle royale games, but they're definitely a lot of sort of battle royale IO games. There's like Slither.io and
I've heard of that. I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
so this is like a whole.
There's Scribblio, Scribble.io.
Ton of them. There's a ton of them, and I think this is like Agar.io.
Oh, I know about Agar.io. I mean, I guess.
Yeah. So this is like
I guess I know about these. I just didn't know them as IO games.
So these are like really, really big in terms of like younger audiences of people who like don't have access to like, jobs to buy games. They just like go and play effectively large scale multiplayer stuff for free. The dark secret of these is actually that a lot of them are not actually multiplayer, or they're like very small scale multiplayer with like fake AI opponents or fake players that are actually just AI that they'll kind of like put in other people over time. But you can go in and feel like you're playing with hundreds of people. Anyways, what I think has happened with Vampire Survivors is that because it's at an itch.io domain, I heard someone else in a Discord who didn't understand what itch was say that it was an IO game. And I think what's like happening as well is that because this game also has the production values of an IO game, which like are often look really cheap and kind of hacked together. I think that there's like this sort of weird thing happening where people who like don't understand itch as like a general game storefront are going to the like Vampire Survivors.itch.io domain, and they're sort of thinking it's like the same stuff. I don't know. But anyways, like it's touching into a similar thing of like people who have sort of low bars of expectations for like baseline functionality for games you can play online. And a lot of people are playing just the free version that's on itch inside the web player. And then I think obviously a lot of people are still buying the Steam version, but it's sort of like it's just this like weird thing that's kind of just like catching through like a million different ways, kind of right place, right time. And it's like very unpretentious, which I think really works in its favor too.
This is totally not hewing to your point at all, so I apologize, but this game to me feels like the game I wished that I had on my computer in the 90s.
Yeah. I think it's like people who are like bored,
like Ski Free.
Yeah, it's like people who are like bored in math class who like have access to the computer lab computer or whatever, are like going to like itch.io and like playing Vampire Survivors. Like
Did
because
you ever
it's
play calculator games?
Yeah, dude.
TI-83.
Block Boy?
Classic. Block Boy. Did you ever play Phoenix? Phoenix? That was the shmup. That was a shoot 'em up.
Yeah, it was like the shmup. Yeah.
That game was lit, dude.
That game was crazy because I'm pretty sure the ship was like a third of the screen. I remember it being really big.
Are calculator games still a thing? Like, are they still prevalent in high schools as they were back then? And what are those games like? We need to ask a
real high schooler again.
I feel like we need to get Luke Winky on the show to do a story about this.
Does he know about the high schoolers?
No, but he could do the research. This seems like the kind of story he would do. Do you know do you know anybody who still is playing high school, games in high school on their calculator? Hit me up. I'm doing a story for Mel.
That's true.
Isn't Mel dead? I don't know. Anyway, probably New York Times went out. Luke Winky, former Bad End guest,
Luke Winky,
now writing for the New York Times, now in the Gray Lady. I don't know. There's a lot to be said about Vampire Survivors. The fact that it's $2. Throw $2 for a video game.
I think this is the thing where it's like people get all excited about like Among Us and like Vampire Survivors. And I'm like, motherfucker, the game is $2. The fact it is like $2, it validates so much about like any like criticism or like every single $2 game is like worthy of talking about to the degree that we can talk about Vampire Survivors.
I disagree.
I'm like,
I highly
the reason
disagree,
it matters.
Kyle. I highly disagree.
I disagree about your disagreement.
You know what?
It's $2.
I have actually thought about this. This has been a thought that I've thought. This has been a conscious thought in my brain. Is sometimes I've played a shit ton of roguelikes in the past couple years.
Yeah.
To the point where I almost feel like I've played every roguelike that is worth playing. And I'm getting to the point where I'm really starting to it's getting to the point where I'm really starting to appreciate the existence of something like Dead Cells, where I've seen so many shitty versions of Dead Cells where I'm like, you know what? Dead Cells is only special up to a certain point, and I think that's important to realize, absolutely. But there's not that much else like it out there, which is something that we also talk about on the show, which is that video games are a luxury good. And it's not, while there is tons of competition and there are tons of people making video games, not as many people as we think are making good and satisfying video games to play, which is why it's important to recognize when games are actually fun and feel good and are satisfying and hit those pleasure centers in our brains. And Vampire Survivors does that very well. I think that the loop is somewhat limited. You know, your mileage may vary, but it's a nice like kind of 10 hours. I described it as kind of the ultimate jerky game, if such a thing was to exist, the beef jerky of video games.
It feels like, I feel like it feels like a reaction to the like fucking craze of battle royale stuff that happened over the past 5 years.
This game?
Like, yeah,
Vampire
I'm not
Survivor.
saying it's like, not saying that it is like, it would state itself as this, but I think that some of the appeal here is like so many of like the multiplayer and just like game experiences of like, think of like the prestige AAA game or like most of the big multiplayer experiences right now are like, the sort of like the bar to like get to the fun is like pretty delayed in general. Like it's like you've got to go through at least a tutorial. You've got to do all the like bullshit to like get the actual like lightsaber instead of having like the pistol or whatever. And there's something about this game that I feel like really hits because it's like no fucking nonsense. It's like press play, start attacking skeletons like right now. There's zero friction to the whole thing. And I think that is just like really appealing because you sit down, everyone's fucking burnt out from a pandemic. You sit down and you're like, I want to have like a meaningful game experience, or just like, I want to watch number go up right now. I do not want to wait 5 minutes in a lobby. I don't want to like watch some bullshit cutscene. I don't want to like deal with the story. It's like, I want just right now, I want to attack a skeleton. And it's like, what else? Like even like I was saying, I was mentioning like Dead Cells, like even Dead Cells takes like longer to get to like the TTS, the time to skeleton in Dead Cells is higher than Vampire Survivors. It's like you press play and you're like smacking fucking shit. Like it's like within seconds. Yeah. And I think that there's like I think that's like a really big appeal where it's just like, just fucking get in. It feels good. God.
There's
the
something to be
pop up
said
real
about
nice.
the fucking annoyingness of the AAA opening of a game experience.
Very high TTS
and any
AAA experience.
I have to watch the fucking Bethesda cube spin around for 15 seconds, and then this janky ass menu where there's like, smoke is coming off a building in the background. I don't fucking care, man. Just put me in the video game. I don't need to see a building that's been destroyed and animated beautifully. This is like the Last of Us, every fucking war game. Like, Call of Duty, I have to watch my guy walking on a infinite treadmill while I wait to get into a fucking lobby. God damn, dude. It's honestly such bullshit with these games. it's like how everybody praises Super Meat Boy for when you die you just immediately respawn. This game is TTS, time to skeleton.
Very low TTS.
Low TTS. God, that's such a good point. I am done. I'm good to stop talking about Vampire Survivor.
I'll dovetail this into a game that's also got a pretty low TTS, which was exciting because I was worried it would have a high TTS. It's got a little bit higher TTS than I wanted, I'll say, but it's still pretty low, which is I've been playing Ollie Ollie World. Do you know about this?
Yes, I know about it. I've played the Ollie Ollie.
Okay, you have played Ollie
Ollie World.
So Ollie Ollie for all y'all who don't know about it is it's a side-scrolling skateboard game. But the thing is that it's not like a side-scrolling skateboard game like Tony Hawk. I love Tony Hawk, but like in Tony Hawk, you're just running around, you're just flipping tricks, doing like every trick or whatever. And Ollie Ollie, like it's more like Skate. So if you ever played like the sort of OG Skate games where actual sort of thumbstick position like really matters in terms of what tricks you do. Ollie Ollie is like that. So like if you're like it's like non-trivial to like do like a 720 in midair because you have to like literally move your stick around like 3 times like through full rotations to actually like do the thing. Excuse me, 2 full rotations. But so Ollie Ollie World, so there's been Ollie Ollie 1 and Ollie Ollie 2, and they were sort of like kind of like visually they were like fine. They were also really hard because of some of this stuff. Like in Ollie Ollie, one of the things that sort of made it really different was that when you would do a trick, you had to like actually align your board with like the direction of the level. So it's very easy to fall. So they're actually really challenging. Like they're more like platformers than they were like skate games. Ollie Ollie World is like way easier because now instead of having to land tricks straight, you just get graded based on your landing. So like you'll never like fall from like fucking a trick up. You can still fall from like missing a jump or whatever. But anyways, in this game, if you're watching this on YouTube, you see this, the style is like way better. It's like the best way of thinking about it is sort of like Adventure Time meets like Donut County. It's kind of like the vibe of the game. So it's like 3D, but still in a 2D plane. And it's just fucking fun, Josh. It's just like, it feels good to skate around. It feels good to get points. There's like level challenges and stuff. And when you die, like you just saw here in the video, you can just restart. There's no like, cut scene where you got to watch something or something's got to load in. It's just like you die, you restart. Very like Meat Boy-esque. So this game also has a low TTS, time to skate. You just get in and start skating. There is like some like story and like open worlds, or not open world. There's like a sort of track where you kind of move between levels on like a world map or whatever, but it's like kind of whatever. And the game gets sort of more ridiculous as it goes on in terms of what it's asking you to do. In a very like, if you ever played like Trials, like the motorcycle or motorbike game, it's a lot. It's sort of a similar escalation and stuff where like first you're just doing normal ramps and then all of a sudden you're jumping through hoops of fire and then you're like in space. It's just good. It just feels really good. There's a really great like Animal Crossing style item customization system. So you can just dress your skate person up however you want to do, which looks as real cool and fun. But this has been my like go-to like lunch game. I'll just like set the Switch up, grab the controller and like get a few runs in and then pop out.
Switch has great TTS because
Switch has great TTS in general.
You just press the button and you're in.
And you're in. You're back.
You don't have to wait for the sleep is just perfect. Sleep mode stuff.
I will say I'm consistently surprised by how quickly the PlayStation 4 will get me back into like Sekiro, which is not meant to be the transition to talk to Sekiro right now. But I've been sort of pleasantly surprised by the PS4's ability to like wake and like keep state. It's nowhere near as good as the Switch, which is like still bewilderingly good.
It's instantaneous, yeah. They need to come up with that stuff on PC. They need to find a way. I don't think that there is an easy way to do that, but it would make PC gaming a lot better because having to start the game every single time you want to play it sucks.
It does. Gotta see all those logos. But yeah, if you like skate games and you're really hurting for a new skate game, Ollie Ollie World is really fun. I think I had said this in the Bad End Discord. I think it might be one of my early game of the year contenders. It's just like
that makes sense. I mean, skate games are such a great. It's got that tactility as a reward for execution thing going on. You know?
Yeah.
Where when you land the move, you hear the sound of your wheels hitting the ground perfectly, and you get that little satisfying pop. And Ollie Ollie is like all about that. It's like you do your trick and you feel the input of how well you've executed it instantaneously, which is dope.
I also think just like there's not a lot of games I can think of that have, I guess like fighting games are honestly the closest parallel here, where very specific movements of like the sticks correspond to like a consistent action on screen.
Right.
So like, and I don't really like fighting games. But this is like, it's really cool to be like, oh, this is how I do a heel flip. And then every single time I do that motion, I will like do a heel flip, or like, this is how I do like a no comply or like something else, or like, this is how I do this grab, and being able to like get in the muscle memory of doing that and actually doing the thing and kind of seeing it happen on screen just is like, it's just cool. There's not really anything else like it.
This is a game that
good.
From a long time, from actually a few months ago during like Christmas. Have you heard of True Skate?
I have not.
My cousin was playing this game during Christmas called True Skate, and it's a phone game that's essentially like a tech deck, but on your phone. And it is like seriously one of the wildest fucking things I've ever seen. I need to show you.
You gotta pull a video of this. I'm trying to. Is it like you put your phone like on the table and you put your two fingers on the phone?
No. You can just hold it. It's hard to describe what's happening unless you're actually watching somebody play it live. I guess here's a good looking video, but yeah. So it's an actual board, and you like put one finger on the board, and you use your second finger to like push the board forward as if you're actually skating. And
okay. Oh, you have like a finger on the board and you're like running your finger.
Yes, like as if one of your fingers is one of your feet and another finger is your other foot. So you would have one foot on the skateboard and the other one is pushing along the side of the skateboard. And then to do tricks, you have to like do the actual motion on the skateboard with your fingers that your feet would be doing to do that actual trick. And it's just it is actually difficult to learn how to play this game.
This would drive me insane because the worst phone gesture is dragging. Just hands down, though, it's the worst fucking gesture.
Especially so in video games.
Any video game that's on mobile, it has to have me drag. I'm like, fuck that. I do not want to drag on my phone. I've got a big fucking thumb. Like my fingers, it gets the screen all weird and it's like too much friction or not enough friction or like.
Yeah, and you're like just dragging your finger through your own condensation of your fingers. And, just gross, grubby.
Like watching this guy in this video just consistently like looks like he's scrolling through photos.
Did you see how he did a kickflip there? How he
swiped.
He swiped and then he did that. Yeah, so there are sort of gestures, but they correlate to the actual physics that it would take to do these things in real life, which is wild. And to see that my cousin was able to actually do these things well when it was clearly something that I was having a lot of trouble doing was a trip, because you don't usually see that kind of skill instantaneously. I keep using the word instantaneously this episode. This is just my word of the episode. You just don't see it translate that 1-to-1, I guess, in the context of a phone game like this. So this is not a True Skate ad, but It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool game.
I mean, it looks like it's well done just from the video. Doesn't look like a piece of crap.
Actually very well done. The graphics were blowing my mind. I'm not one to be impressed by graphics, but I was very impressed by the graphics.
That grip tape. That grip tape looks like
game's got great praising graphics, is that a boomer thing? It feels like a boomer thing. The graphics on this are crazy, dude.
I don't know. I feel like kids are still like dick measure based off like graphics and whose computer is better.
Yeah. I think it's more about frames now almost.
It is more about frames. That's true. It's like, well, yeah, you're in 2K, but like how many frames you get in 2K, buddy?
Does it run is it 144 hertz or what? Because if not, I don't care.
You wearing your Gunners, bro?
I can't see that many frames with my Gunners.
You talk about some other video games?
I got Sifu. I got Strange Horticulture. Which one would you rather hear about?
Let's talk about Sifu. Is Sifu by the people who did
Absolver?
It is the Absolver people.
Yes, it's the Absolver people. It's like a French team, I believe.
I was like so hyped for Absolver, and I got it when it came out, and I wanted to like it so bad, and I was like, I couldn't tell if the game was bad or I was just like too smooth brained to like get it, but I just got my fucking ass beat so consistently in that game where I was like, I haven't
played this game since the first time I played it.
Absolver?
Sifu.
Did you ever play Absolver?
No, I didn't.
This looks very similar to Absolver.
Yes, I've seen footage of Absolver, and I know you were super hyped for Absolver. I remember that specifically.
I think the reason I was hyped for it was because I hate fighting games, but I was like, this game was like a fighting game that's like fun to fight in and not like worry about all the fighting game bullshit. But instead of that, it was just like different kinds of bullshit.
Yes, this has a lot of fighting game bullshit. It
Josh,
feels like...
Tell me about Sifu. What's going on? So, what are we looking at here?
It's a brawler. You're just going around and doing some context-sensitive actions and beating the shit out of people. But with a couple gimmicks, I would say. It's, quote, influenced by Hong Kong cinema. But I don't... It's not good. It's not influenced well. It's fucking cringe, dude. This game is cringy to me. I don't know. This just feels like it's like your white coworker who like really likes Bruce Lee movies. And he's like, I can make one of these. And this is what comes out. You know? There's no... I love Hong Kong cinema as well. And I'm like, what fucking Hong Kong movies are we watching here where this is what you're taking from it? This is like the John Wick. This is what the person who loves John Wick takes from Hong Kong cinema. It's like if let's just like put Asian people in fucking John Wick without guns. And that's what Sifu is. There's this weird gimmick where it's a roguelike sort of, but when you die, instead of dying, your character ages. Like in like a year or two. Yeah. And you get your your attack damage goes up, but you also take more damage. And then the more you die, the more years get added to your age. Until you're like a certain age, and then you just die. And then the run starts over. But I don't understand the importance of that or how it fits into the story. It just feels like a gimmick to me. The game tries too hard.
Tell me that there's a card battle system.
No, not that I know of. But it's one of those games that it read one too many reviews that praised a game for not being hand-holdy, you know? And there's just way too little tutorializing in the game for a lot of its systems. The fight system stuff is well tutorialized enough, and I suppose that's the important thing. But there's a lot of like, you're in your base and you have to look at the fucking board to make connections between the people who you're trying to kill and stuff like that. But it doesn't tell you how to use any of this stuff, or like there's upgrade systems that are like, it's like the skeuomorphism of upgrade systems where there's like, you go up to a tree and it's showing you a skill tree and stuff like that. But it doesn't explain really much of it to you. So I'm like, I appreciate that you're not laying it all out for me and giving me a 10-minute tutorial on this stuff, but just show me how it works, dude. Just give me like 3 tool tips, please.
What's weird about like watching this video is like, so like Absolver was sort of interesting because it was like multiplayer, but also like the world was it wasn't like boss fights, but it was like there'd be a zone and you would fight like 4 people in that zone, maybe 3, maybe 2. And like each fight was like actually sort of like Sekiro. It was like a kind of it was like a very specific test of like how good you were at that moment, to varying degrees of like actual fun levels. But it's like there are 4 battles here that you kind of have to do and like just be really good at the fighting system. And like what's weird about Sifu, from what I'm like seeing on the screen, is that like it's just like totally gone. And this looks more like Arkham Asylum or something, where it's just like a brawler combat that's got like way too many like systems on top of your combat, where it's like, why? It's like, if you're gonna do this, like just make it be an action combat system. Don't make it be some like, crazily intense fighting system with like really important combos and stuff. Or sort of like, it's weird.
There is a lot to say here. I mean, for me, it does feel very similar to Arkham Asylum or one of the Batman games. And there are also similarities between it and Sekiro, but it just feels like a bad Sekiro a lot of the time, It has the fucking this thing that is really annoying me in these fighting brawly type games, where you're highly encouraged to parry, except they make the actual animations of what's happening super tricky, where it's like, I'm gonna punch you, and then their fist flashes, and then it's like, oh, actually, like, I'm gonna go back with my other hand, and then I'm gonna like lunge backwards and then strike forward and hit you. It's like, it's so obnoxious, dude. Like that's this real skill of the game, is memorizing, oh, when he pulls back his fist, he's actually going to jump backwards twice and then he's going to go forward and hit you. Or when he goes in for this attack animation, he swings his sword 3 times and then I can go in and strike it. I complained about this with Sekiro as well. But there's something that just feels more fluid about the way that it's executed in Sekiro. Something that feels a little bit less cheap than this, I guess. I think partially because in this game you get swarmed, so you have to watch out for like 3 or sometimes 4 different attack animations, which, to its credit, is something that this game meaningfully tries to engage with. In a game like Batman, you typically just have, like, if you're fighting 7 guys,
they're all like
only
standing around,
3 of them are doing only 3 of them are doing something at any given time. But in this game, you will have like 5 guys actually swinging at you at the exact same moment, which is cool, I guess. But then you just get the shit beat out of you like instantly, which kind of sucks.
This game looks like it would be fun to play for like 30 minutes, and then I'm like, all right. The body count just over the time you talking about this on this video is like 60 people.
Also, the movement kind of sucks.
Non-stop fists.
The movement kind of sucks. The camera is a little bit too close for comfort. I felt really it's a bit claustrophobic. And to talk about the appropriation thing, which it's 100% one of the top things that I was thinking about. I don't think about this stuff super consciously, where I'm like, this is appropriation of my culture. My culture is not a costume type thing. It's not that. It's just like, this is so fucking cringy. And if you're going to take this, if you're going to take Hong Kong cinema as inspiration, there are so many more interesting things that you could be pulling from that are not the things that they've decided to go with. It really is just set dressing. There's no meaningful engagement with it. And that's the thing. I'm not offended. It's just fucking cringy. It's just not good. It's not well executed. You know? Like, I don't know, man. What's it called? Sleeping Dogs is still one of the games that I think has done this the best. Where it actually like engaged with Hong Kong cinema in a way that I thought was good and cool and over the top and fun, and that game is the shit. That's what this game wishes it was. You know?
This is a crazy thing because like I think that the people who listen to Bad End and like we're not really interested in this. But I saw recently where this game has sold like 500,000 copies. Like somewhere in the world, some people are just fucking eating this up, which is sort of crazy to me because like, I mean, Absolver especially was sort of like a minor indie release. So the idea that like this sort of follow up is like, why is it so successful? Is it because of the fact that it's just like appropriated?
The pitch is good. The pitch is good. I think it's a brawler and we don't get that many good ones, I guess. Like, I think that's why I bought the game, despite the fact that I don't like it. Like, I thought that I would like this game and I just really did not. I really bounced off of it. I spent my own money on this game, dude.
You spent Josh dollars on this game?
It's one of those games that like I'm going to play later out of a sense of guilt. And maybe I'll come around on the combat at some point, but I will never come around on how fucking cringy the actual execution and the art stuff is. It's just, God, look at it. Oh, pendant, and you're getting older so that you're like a cool fucking sensei looking guy. Which, by the way, if we want to talk about mixing up different Asian cultures, like one of the first scenes is taking from the hallway fight in Old Boy. The hallway fight in Old Boy. It's just like a direct rip of it. It's like, okay, first level, you like Asian martial art,
burn it out right there. Yeah,
iconic stuff. Yeah, I don't know, man. Nothing else to say. Nothing else. This is showing the age mechanic. You're now 74. Now you're fucking dead. Because
it's like literally nothing about this makes me interested in this game. I'm like, this looks like.
Just do yourself a favor and just don't fucking buy it. Just watch Hard Boiled. Or John Wick, for that matter.
I don't like... Yeah.
God.
Well, that sounds like a video game.
Strange Horticulture, also a video game.
Oh yeah, this is you played this recently. This was it's like you run a plant shop, but it's like eldritch plants.
Yeah. It's like a Lovecraftian.
This sounds very not Josh Core. I was very surprised to hear you playing this, or like that you were. What inspired the dive?
I saw a video of someone playing it. I think I saw it on Steam. Saw it on Epic EGS. They had a nice little sale going on a couple weeks ago, and I got it. It reminds me a bit of, I would say, Cultist Simulator, just the general vibe of playing it. It's very like calming, dealing with simple, it's like almost clerical work, keeping stock and inventory and keeping track of stuff, but there's more behind it, Essentially, you get these customers that come to your shop and they're like, hey, I want some Solomon scepter. And then you're like, what the hell plant is Solomon's Scepter? It's like you have it in stock, but you're not familiar with all the plants. So you have this little book you go through, and you look up the plant's attributes and what it looks like and what it does, and you give them the plant and they leave satisfied. But it ends up switching up where parts of it almost become like a escape room type puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
And that stuff is really interesting. It adds a nice spice, a little bit of pepper throughout the experience that I'm digging. And it has that air of conspiracy around it, like something's hidden behind these rudimentary tasks that you're doing, like any great one of these games should do. I think that's something that Papers, Please did really well.
I was going to say, it looks like a sort of a please-like.
It's a please-like, yeah, a please-like.
A PP-like.
Papers, Pleasian. It's Pleasian.
It's Pleasian. No, what's his name? Pope. It's Pope-esque.
Yeah, Popian. Yeah.
Popery.
I mean, I think you look at some footage and you pretty much know what's going on. But the story is fun to follow. It's not too long from what I can tell. I think it's just a few sittings. I've played probably about 2 sittings, and I think the next one I'll knock it out. It's chill, but it also has that sense of mystery around it. So there's meat there to dig into. So that's Strange Horticulture. Would recommend checking that one out if this is your shtick. Or if you need something between. You know what I got? Have you heard of Not for Broadcast? I haven't played this, so I don't have anything to say about it yet. But I'm trying to play that. That looks pretty cool.
Is that it's multiplayer, right?
No. Not that I know of. Not that I know of. Not for Broadcast is an FMV game where you are the person who is running you're the broadcast operator. So you have all the camera angles, like of what's happening on set, and you have like the sensor button and all this stuff. It has the look of a no code game where it's very like interface based, you know?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Where you're working with these interfaces, but you're tasked with, censoring things that are said on screen and showing certain angles and certain quotes and certain tapes. And you're kind of doing it real time while the broadcast is going. So I'm assuming that there's going to be some sort of Papers, Please-esque censorship stuff going on. But yeah, where there's like some Orwellian commentary on the surveillance state and propaganda and whatnot. That's sure to come in the game sooner or later. I haven't actually played it yet, but I have it and I will play it for next time because it looks really fucking cool. But it's all like FMV acted. It seems to have like a sense of charisma and is not super self-serious, which is kind of what's drawing me into it. If it was her story / telling lies type performances, I might not be so inclined, but it looks like a telling lies mixed with a no code style game with some, I guess, Five Nights at Freddy's ishness in there.
I was thinking of Do Not Feed the Monkeys, which is like a similar vibe.
And it's multiplayer. Interesting.
Is Do Not Feed the Monkeys multiplayer? No, the single player too. There's some like multiplayer one that is like a similar, you're looking through screens thing. I saw it on like GOG actually, but yeah, Do Not Feed the Monkeys is like a digital voyeur simulator where you watch strangers through surveillance cameras. I guess this is like a little more like
right here. Look at these clips, man. You're just going through the feeds. This interface stuff looks very Five Nights at Freddy's-esque.
Yeah. It's like rendered.
But it's like you have to put in the tape to play the commercials and stuff like that. And then you have to cut to the commercials when it's commercial time, and it's just, I don't know, it just looks really cool. I don't know. I'll watch it. I'll play it sooner or later.
Sweet.
Yeah, what else you got?
I've played Josh, are you familiar with the Pocket Monsters? Pokemans?
I would say I am.
I played Pokemon Legends Arceus for about 6 or 7 hours so far. And it's like it's not the it's not like the sort of like revelation that Breath of the Wild was, which I think is what some people were sort of expecting for this. The people who weren't just like hating on it, the people who were like kind of excited for it were like, oh, this will be like a reimagining of Pokemon. And what it sort of feels like is it feels like it's like a half step to that. It's like they're not it's so if you don't know about Arceus, it's an open world Pokemon. It's sort of like it's like the Pokemon game that you would have imagined when you were like 7 years old playing Pokemon. You're like, what if it's in like 3D and the Pokemon are around and you can like you go catch them and like, oh, it's basically that. It's like that, but the thing is that it's like that and then like not much else. You're running around, you can catch Pokemon in the wild. There's like a very, very, very sort of simple town structure that you can return to like, you know, buy some items and stuff. But it's not like, it's like the vibes are off a little bit for like what Pokemon's normally supposed to be. And it feels like they're sort of stuck in this like weird area where they're still trying to like apply Pokemon concepts to a game that doesn't actually really want to be a Pokemon game. To the point where like what's sort of interesting about this game is that I think a lot of Pokemon games up to this point have been sort of very transactional in the way that you interact with Pokemon, namely because you're just catching them to do like battles. And not only that, but like the catching part of Pokemon is often very tedious. In Arceus, catching Pokemon is like very easy. Easy ones, especially like you can like just go out to like the field and go catch like 15 Bidoof. Like it's fucking nothing. And if you've like played Pokemon ever, you'll know that trying to just catch 15 Pokemon can take like 30 minutes of like very tedious work. So what they've done is they've really like sort of streamlined the process of like capture and really kind of leaned into sort of like strange horticulture-ish stuff, like kind of leaned into this aspect of Pokemon that's about like cataloging and tagging and just understanding, like the premise of the game being that you're kind of like, you kind of fell back into the past. And so everyone's kind of like just discovering Pokemon, which is like a really cool conceit, but then like, you kind of want to like do more stuff with the Pokemon that's not just like battling. And there's just like no real ability to do any of that. And it's like, it's fun. It's really cool. Like running around and just like seeing Pokemon sort of in the wild and being like, oh shit, like there's a, you know, XYZ. It's not as like sort of focused as something like the new Pokemon Snap, where when you're running around in that game, like because the density of Pokemon can be a little lower and the tracks are like linear, when you're like moving around in Pokemon Snap, like every level sort of feels like it was handcrafted for like the environment that Pokemon lives in. And this still sort of feels like an abstraction in a way where like the places themselves are like kind of sparse. And it's like, oh, there's a field with like an Alakazam, and then oh, next to it is like a Bidoof, and they're just like running around on the same terrain. And it's like, fine, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's sort of weird. Like you kind of want that like environment part of Pokemon, which is so much of the appeal that I think isn't really captured here. And there are like different biomes, to be clear. There's like a snowy area and like a water area, and like that's like a thing. But it's still like,
I would compare
it is still an open world.
I would compare it to, I guess, so like if you want to make a hotel, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to have multiple rooms. You need to have multiple bathrooms, and you need to have the resources to make that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And whereas if I just want a room to sleep in, I can use a tent, right?
Yeah.
If you want to make a Pokemon game, this is something that they kind of set as the standard decades ago. You only need just a little pictures of the Pokemon, and then just a little world with which to put little people to talk to, and then just the menus, and that's all you need. That's all the infrastructure it's taken. That's why Pokemon has never changed, because if they wanted to flesh out the Pokemon world, if they wanted to turn that tent into a hotel, they would have to build an infrastructure to support that, which is kind of what Arceus is doing, where it's like, we want you to feel like Pokemon exist in an interesting world and are a part of this burgeoning culture and are worth studying and following around and interacting with on a non-combat, non-strictly video gamey, action gamey basis, which requires a pretty big infrastructure that, you know, it's a Zelda Breath of the Wild-esque undertaking to do that really, really well, I think, at the very least. And it clearly Arceus does not have that, but I think, as a lot of people have kind of said, it seems like this is like a starting point for them. I think that they're going to continue to do this. It's a proof of concept, almost like a tech demo for where they're going to be taking the series in the future.
Yeah. And I think like what's sort of there of Arceus feels like, okay, this is like if they were to like really have the same concept of Pokemon and like start today with like modern sort of thinking about making a video game, I feel like you would get something a lot like Arceus, and you kind of like narrow in on other stuff. So yeah, I'm with you. Like, it feels like the next game or whatever will be like, provided they stay in this model, like it'll be like a lot better. I think it's just hard because the Pokemon audience is so like demanding. Like part of what I would think would make this game really great is actually like you cut the number of Pokemon in half and make catching each, like, you could still kind of like make catching smaller ones different, but you kind of center stuff around like bigger kind of narrative moments of capture or whatever. Or like you do like an open world style Pokemon Snap game or something. Like that's like if you had like the sort of fidelity and density of Pokemon Snap expressed through like an open world game, like that would be sick. Arceus is like not that. It's like, it feels a little bit like a single player MMO that focuses around like capturing,
and it looks like one
creatures, and it looks like one. Like it's MMO, not, dude. Yeah,
which is to say, it doesn't look very good.
Yeah, it's kind of like busted in a few ways, but it's still like enough where like it feels like just good enough to like kind of keep playing it.
Pokemon Legends 3 is gonna be the shit.
Yeah, number 3, that's the one. So mark your calendars.
Whenever that comes out, the third one of these is gonna be really, really good.
I will say, if I wasn't like playing Sekiro right now, I would probably be playing this a little more because it's pretty chill. But also like it's got this thing where like you like everyone who's been doing open worlds for the past like 15 years like kind of understands like you don't need so much to, there's like things that you would do in an open world game 15 years ago that you wouldn't do today unless you're Pokemon Legends Arceus. Like going to having to like run back to the quest giver to turn in a quest. It's like that shit does not fly anymore. You finish a quest, you just like cash it in. It's magic. No one questions it. But in like Pokemon, it's like weirdly sort of like diegetic where you have to like go get a quest, you talk to someone over there, and you have to like go run all the way across the like fucking world map to go this other place and then go do the thing, and they have to go all the way back to like talk to the person to do it. So it's got these like sort of like speed bumps kind of built in a little bit. Luckily it's like it's not so bad to the point where someone's like, go get 5 of this item, and you already got 5 in your inventory, and they like won't acknowledge that. If they will like kind of give you that stuff for free, but it's still like just enough stuff where like the room in this video right now is kind of this like Pokemon headquarters thing. And this place is like kind of big. It's like 3 stories, but it's like it's stuff is scattered all around and you're not really fast. So if you want to like go to this very specific place, you have to like go run into this like town, to go run to the center of town, and then like do a load screen to get into this building, and then like go up 2 floors of stairs to go to this like very specific room to talk to someone to do like one thing. And then you have to like go all the way back out and do that stuff again. That stuff is like, it's just kind of annoying. But luckily, like a lot of the game is just sort of focused around like Pokédex related tasks. So it'll be like, see a Starly do like its wind gusts, or like catch a Bidoof surprise or whatever. And there's like 6 or 7 tasks for every Pokemon. So it's sort of cool about it in the way that like, again, it's sort of sketching at like a better idea of a Pokemon game, is when that actually leans into the concept of like Pokemon as creatures that can like be observed and like can do stuff. It's just like right now, like the stuff they do is pretty boring. It's like they attack or they like hide. And I think a game that like leaned more into like Pokemon as creatures would be like really cool. But this is not quite that. But it's a step. It's way more. I've not bought a Pokemon game in like 15 years. So the fact that this one got me to buy one, I think is a good sign for what it's worth. So
I'm excited for part 3.
Yeah, number 3 will be the hit.
And I also think that this will affect the design of the mainline games in its own ways. I'm sure that some of what happens here will inform mainline Pokemon gameplay and or design. At least I hope, because that's also needed a bit of shaking up too. Maybe they're just like doing it in a separate siloed off space.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, we got dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you seem to be playing a lot of Sekiro, at least.
I'm playing a lot of Sekiro. That's my like. I was trying to figure out something to play. I'd beaten Bloodborne, and I was trying to play either Witcher 3 or Sekiro. And I played a little bit of Witcher 3, and I was like, I'll play some Sekiro. So I think I'm like, I'm trying to get where I'm at. The game is sort of like weirdly structured. Like just in turn, it's more like it's not like Bloodborne or Dark Souls 1, where it's kind of like the levels like kind of fold in on each other and kind of very like obvious logical steps. Like you can very easily in this game like kind of go the wrong direction a little bit, or like you can kind of get lost. Not like lost, but like, and like Dark Souls and Bloodborne is very easy to be like, okay, there are 3 specific directions I have to go. And it's pretty obvious which like one is probably the one I should be going on. This game is like, it's not quite Dark Souls 2, where it was like a hub and spoke, where there's like a central area and there's like all these spokes, but it's somewhere between that and like mainline Dark Souls or Bloodborne, where you've got like there's a place in Sekiro, as you know, like Ashina Castle, where Genichiro is like at the top.
Mm-hmm.
But like Ashina Castle is like really big, and like when you get to Ashina Castle, there's like, I can think of at least like 4 routes out of Ashina Castle, 3 of which will take you just to totally different areas, all of which you can do before you fight Genichiro. And it's like sort of hard to know at any given moment, like where you're kind of like supposed to go. And there is still like a kind of direction you should be going. So it's sort of basically all that to say, it's sort of hard to say where I'm at. But I think I just finished, I think the like Sinpo Temple or something, like in the mountains.
Oh yeah.
With like the folding screen monkeys.
The crazy monks.
Yeah, the crazy monks. Crypto monks, because I got to the monkey, the big monkey, and I was
last time you were talking about how you didn't feel like there was much happening under the surface and that it wasn't going weird places. That's
I still
where I start
feel
feeling
like I still feel like it's just not like, I think From Software and the games that I have played has really benefited from letting people's minds like fill their stories with meaning. And I feel like Sekiro is trying to be a little bit more literal, whereas like, I don't know about all this divine child lore. It's kind of seems kind of weird. Like you're trying to like rationalize it. Like just tell me there's divine blood and have someone like laugh in a corner.
You should.
And like
actually,
that's like what I want from
you should listen to
game.
the bullet points episode about Sekiro.
Oh,
Super Culture.
Maybe I will.
Partner, sister, brother site. Which I'm actually on, by the way. Fun fact.
Maybe I'll listen to that.
We got some good reads on it that I think it shed some light on the game for me as we were recording the episode. Reed had some cool things to say. I believe Dan Freeze was on that as well. But there's some depth there that hadn't originally come to mind for me as I was playing the game, but that's definitely there. There's definitely some really cool subtext that I was digging. For me, the strongest stuff about Sekiro, I totally agree with what you're saying, that the game is more, quote, literal, which is such a weird thing to call a game, and is something that you can only really use to describe a FromSoft game in relation to other FromSoft games. Because they do this thing where they leave a lot of room to interpretation. Mm-hmm. Despite showing you despite the fact that video games are a visual and tactile medium, I think that's one of the things that's really captured people's minds about the Souls games, is that they leave that space to the imagination. I think one of the biggest examples to me is how there's critical paths in the game where you're supposed to like walk around ledges that don't look like they're meant to be walked on. Essentially, your character, like one of their feet is just hanging off the edge of the stage. It looks like something that you would do to kind of like hack in a video, like find a secret Easter egg in a video game, in any other video game that is like main critical path in one of these games. And it's not a secret in the most literal sense. It's not hidden in some like dark corner. It's secret in this abstracted video gamian sense of the word, where you are filling in that space, knowing how video game language works and using that subtext and filling in that gap for yourself, to the point where you are imagining this hidden passageway and this way of getting somewhere that doesn't actually exist, because in your brain you relate the act of finding an Easter egg or doing this type of movement with finding secret spaces. Except that is like the literal base read that this game is giving you. You know, like how there's just characters that you'll just never find in these games that are in places that feel like impossible to uncover typically. Granted, what I'm trying to say about Sekiro is that it seems to lack a lot of that.
Like I think like it's so weird, like I thought about this a lot when I was playing Hades, where I always talked about the cast in Hades being like one button too many. It's like Hades is a pretty intense like roguelike game, and like just attacking and like the other stuff and like the powers were like enough to keep me like sort of at cognitive load, to the point where like it was hard to do the cast because it was like one thing sort of too many, unless I was just like spamming it or whatever in Hades to like get someone's health damage up. And I often find in like Souls games that items are sort of similar. Like in like most Souls games, I just like collect consumables, but I don't ever really use them. Like I'll use them when like I'm having a lot of problems with a boss, where like it's the poison boss. I need to like drink a lot of like poison resistant stuff or something like that. But like, I think I've literally popped a Mibu balloon in Sekiro once just to see what it did. And I have like not used them for the whole of the game. And like all the items, I just don't fucking care. And that's the same thing with every Souls game. But the thing that every other Souls game does is that it like gives you itemization that change the sort of core loop enough where it feels like you're still making progress in like a way. And so it means that like, oh, I'm going to go explore around this corner and like, I'm going to find a cool like weapon that'll make it feel different to play. It's not going to be like a consumable or something that I can just use. I don't care about. I'll like get a new sword, or like in Bloodborne, it's like I'll get some cool weapon that like makes my playstyle feel different. And in Sekiro, it's like always a fucking Mibu balloon. And it's like there's never like, because the game is like so laser focused on like you are playing it this way with a katana. There are, and like the like prosthetic arm stuff, I think is sort of where the variation comes in. But even then it's like you're sort of like picking a tool going in, and then you're not really switching them out during the fight unless you're like a total madman. So and there's also not a lot of them. There's like I think I'm pretty close to the end of the game. I'm like I think I'm a few areas away, and it's like, yeah, I got like some cool prosthetic arm stuff, but like so much of the game feels like it's about like you fighting people with a katana mostly, and the fact that it's like that, but then at the same time you're not getting like the sort of the mystery that makes it really compelling to move through like a Souls game often. It sort of it feels like it wants you to move forward for the story, but I don't necessarily find the story super compelling. And like there's not like, I'm not looking forward to getting cool items that like change how I play. So I'm just sort of like doing it now because I like want to finish it, but I'm not like hooked on any specific part of it that feels great. Last thing I'll say, and then you can say something. I do wish that more of the game was like the Genichiro fight. I think that like what was sort of cool about that fight a lot was that there was like a very sort of solvable path for that fight where it was very much like, I will do this and then you should do this. And it's like the very sort of direct, like checking your execution. I think what like sucks about other bosses in Sekiro is that they're actually like way more mixed up than Genichiro. So it's like you have to watch so closely, and like Sekiro punishes mistakes so hard that it's really hard to like get a handle on battles without just kind of eating it a few times where you can kind of start.
Did you fight the Guardian Ape yet?
I got to the ape and then I was like, I think I'm too low level for this. And then I turned around and went to, I don't know how to say it, Sifu Temple. And then I just got the thing. I got to go to the snake room and stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about with like the weird stuff where like, I think I got to the ape first even, and then realized that I hadn't actually gone up Ashina Castle to fight Genichiro. And then I was like, oh, I'm like way out of order here. And I've got to like, I like brought up the fucking FE Extra Life guide, progression guide to be like, I think I'm missing something.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there's like all this other shit that I just like totally missed.
Yeah. The Genichiro fight is the fight that teaches you how you're supposed to play the game. And then the Guardian Ape fight is the one that says like, sorry, but none of that applies to this fight, which is, it feels like a slap in the face in a lot of ways, but it's also one of the most memorable boss fights in a game to me, just because it's such fucking bullshit. It's just such a bullshit fight, dude. And I'm excited for you to face it. But I will say that with Sekiro, I think you really need to buy into its literality to understand what From Software is going for. I mean, whether it works with you is one thing, but I think they are aiming for it to be a much more structured and authored experience where they're like, I need you to play the game this way. I need you to feel like this when you are playing this fight. And I think a big part of that, which we partially talked about, but going into a lot more depth on the bullet points episode, I would say, is that it is due to the fact that this takes place in Japan and is much more culturally specific to Japan. I think they're trying to take these archetypes and or experiences or popular tropes within Japanese media and storytelling and iconography and mythology and religion, and saying like, here's our spin on what this vibe is. You know, whether it's like puppet theater, whether it's Buddhism, whether it's any sort of storytelling or tale of Genji or Heike or whatever it is, they are presenting a lot of these images in a way that is a lot different from the way that you might typically experience that in other pieces of Japanese media, and very specifically putting you into situations where you are interacting with them the way that FromSoft wants you to interact with them, which I think is really cool. I think if I had a greater understanding of that stuff, if I had a lot more experience with that type of storytelling, I would be able to engage with the game on an even deeper level. But
like I feel like this game is like totally like not for me. Like I think especially like, I didn't mean to bring up Hades earlier for this reason, but like there's a reason like Hades resonates with like an American audience, because it's tying into all the sort of myth and legend and stuff that we've just like known and internalized since the dawn of our educations and like a Western society. And I think that like, I mean, I do not know, but I would not be surprised to find that like there's a similar sort of like cultural resonance that's happening with Sekiro and people who have familiarity with its like reference points, where it's like hitting in a way that like seeing like Dionysus be this like gay party goer in Hades is kind of this like really interesting interpretation of this motif that has been like, you know, not that for so long. And like something like the folding screen monkeys, I'm like I know the phrase like hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil. I have no idea if that's like attached to this like thing that they're calling back to, but it feels like if that sort of resonance was there, where I was like, oh shit, like I know about this stuff and it's so cool to see the way they kind of do this, or like because like right now, like decisions, because I lack that cultural context, the decisions about what is like meant to be resonant are like totally lost on me. So like in like the monk area, right? Like the monks that like turn into centipedes or whatever, like centipedes come out of them. Like that decision from my perspective feels like totally arbitrary. It's like, okay, well, like it's a fucking monk and they chose a weird insect. But it's like, I would not be surprised to find
some really amazing insights on this section.
Yeah, like, that's what I mean. Like,
because if you think about what's happening in that section, there's like some really authored stuff that is like, there's a moment where literally God talks to you or something like that. Like as you're
it's
entering,
like, why are you here? Yeah,
it's like, this place is evil. Like you should not be here or something like that. Like, which is not something that happens in these games. You know?
Yeah, that's sort of like what I'm getting at, right? It's like seeing the centipede and being like, oh, I'm sure that like this means something more. Like From Software, like I'm not saying that they've like made a bad game by any means. Like every they have the most attention to detail for like every narrative thing they do in their games. And so like it like never feels like any element in those games is like out of place or like unconsidered. Like if it is in there, it is in there because it has some like narrative meaning. And I think that before, for these other games, I could rely on the sort of gaps that existed in the narrative, because like they were building a whole world for everyone. Like everyone, meaning that like people who, no one comes into Dark Souls 1 knowing about Dark Souls 1. I mean, you do now maybe, but like they're building the whole thing from scratch, and they're not having to pull from some sort of resonant concepts outside of like Tolkien-esque fantasy. So the idea of Sekiro is kind of like starting from a different starting point that I don't have. And I think that like, I mean, shout out to them for fucking doing it. I think it's such a cool thing to like say, hey, let's like take this culture and like just fuck it up and make it like real weird, but do it with the knowledge that like this is the first time people will see this sort of thing interpreted this way. But that said, I'm still a fucking white dude from South Georgia who like did not have any sort of like upbringing that is even close to any of this stuff. So a lot of it sort of feels like I'm like feeling around in the dark, and it's like, I don't really know. Is this supposed to mean something? Like,
I think that's
what's going on.
This is the quiet brilliance of Sekiro, right? Because to me, this is how you engage with any media, though, dude. Think about it, dude. If you watch a movie from another country, you do the legwork afterwards to do some research. Or if you're reading a book that's by some author, like, you know that you're not getting at it all of you're supposed to be getting at it because you're not of that culture. And so that's what encourages you to learn more about this and engage with it at a deeper level. Sekiro, it kind of requires you to do that in a way that a lot of other video games don't. Because I'm also trying to think of an analog for what's happening with Sekiro, which is you got this studio that has essentially made games about, Western mythology and folklore and whatnot. But it has left these very intentional large blank spaces for you to fill in yourself. And that they like that ambiguity because they are themselves not of that culture. And so are giving you this like space to interpret that with their lens. And then they go on to make this game that is very specifically Japanese, playing with a lot of specifically Japanese tropes and themes. And yet the game is so clearly authored in a very controlled and monotonous way at points. And I think that's just begging to be read into at a deeper level, which is something that I think a lot of games are too afraid to do. This game is culturally challenging in a way that a lot of games are incapable of doing, which is another reason why I liked that. It's like, it is taking the difficulty of Dark Souls and understanding what's happening in playing the game itself. And instead of having that be an ambiguous thing, saying, hey, we have these very specific things to say, and making a very different experience that actually requires you to do a lot more legwork as a reader, as a person who's trying to interpret this work, which I think is why at first it can come off as being a little bit more obtuse or impenetrable than something like Dark Souls, which is already pretty obtuse and difficult to penetrate. So I think that's one of the strengths of the game, and shows a potential path forward culturally for video games in an era where we talk about how culture seems dead when it comes to video games. Like, it is bringing that difficulty curve to the interpretation mechanism, which is sick, which is dope to me. Like, that's so cool. There are some sequences where I think it just works without you really having to read further into it very much, where you just feel like a fucking cool ass ninja. And that's where what pulled me in to want to do more of that reading. I think the Orin of the Water fight is the main one for me. I don't know if you've done that yet, but when you do, let me know.
I don't think so.
Did you do the centipede? The
I have the centipede.
You have?
No, I think like I'm like at the I have to like fight the ape, and then there's a place where like the snake is like blocking the door, and I just unlocked the ability to like do the control thing to like get the snake to not block the door. And I feel like there was like one more.
Oh, long arm centipede giraffe. You fought this guy?
I don't think so.
That's a fight that very memorable.
Like there's like felt like Snake Eyes, whoever. There's like two of them. It's like
that was in the gun fort. That was in the gun fort, right?
Yeah.
The women of the gun fort.
Yeah.
I remember that one. That was a rough one. When she hooks you, you can actually parry that if you do it at the right time, even though it's like an
I did that on accident once.
Yeah.
I just like wrecked her with the fucking poison blade.
I would
prosthetic tool.
Those things gave me trouble throughout the entire game. So
yeah,
you got to fight that long arm centipede giraffe. That's a fucking crazy.
Oh yeah, then I also got to like the misty forest. Like it's weird because like I was saying, it's not like Bloodborne or Dark Souls where it's like there's like two paths and you can kind of like consecutively push forward. It's like there's sort of a lot of paths. That's hard to go. Actually, one thing playing Sekiro. I mean, I said this the last podcast as well, but like I'm like just consistently surprised and like delighted with how good From Software is at like vertical level design. Like it gives me like a lot of hype for something like Elden Ring, because I think that like it's so easy to design on like a 2D plane, which they've obviously said that they've like shown they're good at with like Bloodborne and like Dark Souls and that sort of thing. But to like actually see them like go 3D and like be in fucking Ashina Castle and be like, this is a fucking castle. Like fuck. Like there's like meaningful interaction happening across like 10 to 20 stories of like map. And that was pretty
shit is
fucking wild. Yeah,
sick.
like it's just like I don't think I've ever played a game where there was so much like considered density on like the fucking y-axis. It's pretty nuts. That's like the honestly the most amazing thing about the game for me is like, despite it not having this sort of like looping, Dark Souls trademarked game structure, the fact that they're able to like do so much with vertical space is like fucking sick. I think that's so cool.
Yeah. Some of it reminds me of Doom 2016. Where you're jumping up and killing guys that are a floor below you, or they're chasing you, so you go up. That's your only way out, and then you come back down, and you're playing this Ring Around a Rosie type thing. Sekiro has that, but like the way that it feels like it's supposed to be done, which is wild from a studio where that had only done like super heavy combat prior.
Yeah, it's just like it feels like it's wild. Like I feel like especially with something like the I don't know what it's even called, the like grappling thing. I don't remember what it's called. That like you pull yourself, you jump up.
Yeah.
Whatever that thing.
I don't know.
Like there's like a way where like every single other game that has something like that is like you can choose to go over the door instead of under it. Wow. Like that's the extent of the interaction for that thing, because like if you really go all the way with something like that, you can really easily break your game, or you can just kind of fucking zip around everywhere.
Yeah.
Sekiro's like, what if you can just fucking zip around everywhere, but also we like actually consider the spaces you can zip to. So like every level that's like vertical has got like 3 or 4 ways that you can like get up. Some of them being zipped, and then some of them being like on the ground, like walking up sort of staircases and stuff. And it's just like, it's just fucking nuts. It's like, it's legitimately just like really amazing. Yeah.
Curious to see where you end up on Sekiro.
Where I land.
You still have some of the more memorable stuff in that game to me. And
it definitely feels like
it has
it's like
a ways to go as far as weirdness is concerned.
That's sort of what I'm excited about. It's because it seems like it's getting more weird. And I think for a long time it was like, I don't know, it's fucking samurai fighting samurai shit. Like I don't care.
It gets weird.
But
it gets weird.
It's getting weirder, and I'm digging the weirder it's getting.
Yeah.
The real question is if I'll finish it in the next 3 days before Elden Ring comes out. Which, maybe. Next time we do this podcast, we'll be living in a post Elden Ring world.
Yes, we will. I'll get it. I'll play it.
Yeah. I'm excited for that. I'm not like super hyped for that. I don't know. I don't get hyped for certain kinds of games now. This is not one, but I am excited to just like, it'll be the first Dark Souls game where I'm playing it when it's first out. Because I've had a lag time on all the other ones.
I didn't even know it was a Souls game until not that long ago, to be honest. Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when I found that out, I was like, "Oh, that's why people are so excited for this."
That's why people care.
I saw it was like a 20-minute gameplay preview trailer, like maybe 4 months ago, and I was like, "This game just looks like a Dark Souls game, but open world."
It's even made by From Software. What the fuck? They're just making Dark Souls again. Oh wait.
Yeah, that's actually like pretty much exactly what happened. It's like,
yeah,
we'll see.
You want to wrap it up?
Yeah.
You got anything else to talk about?
I think I'm good. I think I'm Gucci.
I'm good. I'm Gucci. We got some games ahead of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, some housekeeping stuff. If anybody's trying to go, we might have a little Bad End LA meetup a couple weeks. If anybody's interested, let me know. If you're not on the Discord, tweet at us, DM us on Twitter. We can give you some deets. Just thought I'd give that shout out.
Josh's kickback.
You want to come to the kickback, the Bad End kickback? I don't know. Every Bad End person I met in real life is cool in their own special way.
There's even been some like unsanctioned Bad End hangouts where no Bad End hosts were pregnant. It was present.
I know
that
I
was
wasn't.
just like people from the Discord just meeting up.
Mm-hmm. Just bad enders being bad enders. But yeah. Anyway, we're Bad End Podcast. Right. This was episode 112. Thanks for listening. Thanks for chilling with us for a bit. Hope you enjoyed the convo. If you did, you can be a part of our Discord by subscribing to our Patreon, patreon.com/badend. You can get access to our video podcasts live as they happen and leave some comments, chill out with us. David says, you guys got a cool windswept hair look going today. Thanks, David. This game looks sick, referring to Strange Horticulture, I believe. But yeah, thanks for joining us. We are part of Superculture Network. Follow our buddies on there. You can also talk with them on our Discord as well. It's for the whole Superculture. If you want to email us, badendpod@gmail.com. Tweet at us, badendpodcast. Rate us and review us on iTunes. And we will see you in a couple of weeks. Later.
Bye, everybody.